Welcome to the FullyCrypto podcast.
Hello and welcome to Ye Old FullyCrypto podcast, yon home of quality cryptocurrency and blockchain newsings, watchings, doings, and more. 'Tis Friday, and that be the day you join with me, Mark the Hunter, as we take a freshly whittled bow and arrow and go riding into the crypto woods on the hunt for some succulent morsels of crypto doings upon which to feast. If you'd like to hear more of this sort of thing, not the 17th century English, that stops here, then you can subscribe to the podcast on your platform of choice by removing all your clothes and standing in the middle of busy traffic and shouting, "Look Dad, I did it!" Failing that, throw your mouse at the subscribe icon, that tends to work. With all that out of the way, let's reach into our quiver, pull out an arrow, aim it at the week's crypto news, and let fly. Badoing! Last weekend saw the crypto space getting all excited over news that Apple Pay now accepts Bitcoin. Except of course, it doesn't. What really happened is that Apple Pay is now accepting the BitPay cryptocurrency debit card, which is less exciting. Less exciting still, the integration of the popular mobile wallet and the BitPay card is only open to American users. So unless you're an iPhone using BitPay debit card holder from the United States, the development is about as useful to you as a condom dispenser in a nunnery. The integration with Apple Pay doesn't change the fact that users still need to convert their crypto into local fiat currency before they pay for anything with the card. This is a feature that has plagued the concept of cryptocurrency debit cards since day one and has only been remedied by Coinbase, although it's hoped that any move by MasterCard to get to the crypto space, as outlined last week, will put an end to this necessity. In truth then, what we got last week was less Apple Pay is accepting Bitcoin and more you can leave your BitPay card at home if you're an American iPhone user. It's hardly Tesla, is it? Setting aside the sarcasm, however, it's nice to actually see some adoption between a mainstream application and cryptocurrency. It might not be exactly what we were hoping for, but Rome wasn't built in a day, and every step like this is another one along the path to the day when Apple Pay genuinely does accept Bitcoin. The weekend also saw an armed invasion in Stockholm, Sweden, where a large sum of Bitcoin was stolen from a homeowner in a suburb of the city. The attackers clearly knew the individual owned Bitcoin, and there is a strong belief that the address was one of 14 local addresses leaked in the Ledger hack last year, which the attackers used to locate the holder and rob him of his holdings. We must stress there is no direct proof linking the attack to the Ledger hack, and until or unless the assailants are caught, that we may never know for sure, but ever since the details of 292,000 Ledger customers were made available on the internet, including phone numbers and addresses, first for large sums of money and then for free for anyone to download in December, the threat of a physical attack was something that my former co-host Alex and I previously discussed on the podcast. You're right, if something were to happen to someone, if there was a violent act carried out against someone and they could prove that this was done because of the leak, that's enough, surely.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's enough to take them to court, take them down, especially in the States, where the rules about suing people are a little more relaxed.
Because I don't know. I mean, they're a French-based company, so I don't know how that would work out. I'm assuming, you can from the US, you can still litigate in France. You just have to maybe go a different way about it. It's not as easy as doing it in your own country.
Yeah.
But if something happens to someone physically, then geographical barriers aren't going to stop them.
Oh, exactly. If someone breaks into your home because they know you got Bitcoin because of this leak, and you turn them into Reaver Steenkamp, then there's going to be backlash.
If anything, it's surprising that it has taken so long for a criminal act of this sort to have taken place, given the nature of the list. However, the good news is that such attacks, if indeed this was a result of the Ledger hack, will be few and far between. It's much more likely that would-be thieves will try and use the information to target owners remotely, given that they can target multiple holders in one go without running the risk of a home invasion going wrong. If you're worried by the Ledger hack and want to know what you can do to protect yourself, it's well worth checking out our podcast on the matter, which is episode 26, where Alex gives some basic advice on what precautions to take if your name is on the list. Tuesday saw Bitcoin cross $50,000 for the first time, a monumental milestone that seemed out of the question when it was falling through supports like spaghetti scaffolding less than a year ago on its way down to $3,600. The breakthrough moment brought a lot of hot takes from supporters, critics, and the mainstream media, who all had their own opinions on what the achievement meant. The man with the golden you-know-what, Peter Schiff, terrified the crypto community by admitting that Bitcoin could go to $100,000 before setting the planet back on its axis again by saying that a permanent move down to zero is inevitable. Phew. Nouriel Roubini, who's noted for his fair-minded approach to cryptocurrencies, told anyone who would listen that Bitcoin is a shitcoin, it's a bubble, it is all FOMO, it is worth nothing, it has no value, it is used by terrorists only, it is going to zero, you hear? Going to zero! Interestingly, the vast majority of mainstream media outlets, barely able to comprehend that Bitcoin hasn't gone down in flames after 12 years of predicting such a scenario, actually admitted that its epic rise is not in fact down to FOMO and the bubble, but is instead due to a growing institutional acceptance of the cryptocurrency, something some of them actually said in print. Oh, that must have hurt. Of course, some of the more anti-Bitcoin outlets couldn't help getting in a few of the usual jabs about tulips and mining and the Bitcoin blockchain's vulnerability to space weevils, or whatever the hell they have left to cling to these days. But it's interesting to note that the narrative has changed from 2017, and they are forced to acknowledge that there is, at the very least, a growing acceptance of Bitcoin among individuals and companies who, to their mind, should know better. On Wednesday, we revealed some news truly worth celebrating. Metaone coin is finished. Yes, the scam that featured shamanic healers on its board and only allowed humans to buy its coins is no more, following a decision by a Texas judge to award the SEC summary judgment in the case after the defendants, Robert Dunlap, Nicole Bowdler, and Wanda Ironheart, failed to appear in any court proceedings or offer any material defense. Yes, it seems then that not bothering to turn up to defend yourself against the SEC is not the way to go about defending yourself against the SEC. The case in question dates back to March last year, when the regulators seized the trio's assets after deciding that the claims in the Metaone white paper, which included that the token was backed by billions of dollars in art and gold and the Metaone blockchain would be the fastest in the world, didn't quite stand up to scrutiny. The case has rumbled on for almost a year, with the trio not even bothering to appear to court sessions via video link once COVID hit, to the point where the SEC got fed up and asked the court to rule in their favour, which they did. This is the case that, according to Robert Dunlap, had been sealed due to its fictitious nature and Metaone Coin Trust's legal superiority in the entire digital asset space. This, of course, turned out to be absolute bullshit, and Dunlap & Co. will now have to hand back what remains of the $9 million the SEC says they received from investors, as well as a fine to be determined by the court in April. Dunlap, Bowdler, and Ironheart have also been banned from offering security ever again, while Dunlap himself is still involved in a legal battle with a man who claims Dunlap never paid him for an art collection used to promote the Metaone coin. Metaone still seems to be pressing ahead with their plans, however, and it still seems possible to invest in the project through their website, although we naturally urge you not to take up their offer. You'd be better off sticking your money in a shoe and throwing it in the sea. At least it would make a nice splash. This week also saw one of the more unexpected U-turns on Bitcoin, when the investment website The Motley Fool, whose writers have spent the past 5 years saying how Bitcoin is a disastrous investment compared to, say, a nice safe 3% a year stock, announced that they have purchased $5 million worth of the cryptocurrency. Bitcoin will play a core holding in the Motley Fool's 10x portfolio, according to the company, which, as the name suggests, will feature investments that its gurus think will make them 10 times their investment value over the years. The move was pretty astonishing, given what Motley Fool writers have said about Bitcoin over the years. Some gems include claims that it's almost impossible to trace where lost or stolen Bitcoin has gone, that there is more chance of making $1 million in the stock market than with Bitcoin, concerns that the Bitcoin market could disappear, and, as late as January the 4th this year, that Bitcoin's only assets are scarcity and mania-driven demand. 5 weeks and $5 million later, however, it seems that the Motley Fool suddenly finds itself in disagreement with its own staff, with the 25-year-old investment portal giving 3 key reasons why, when they've watched Bitcoin go from $5,000 to $50,000, decide that now is the right time to invest. According to the MF, Bitcoin will store value more effectively than gold over the long term. It may become a medium for transactions as/if pricing stabilizes in the decade ahead, and that it can act as a productive hedge against inflation. That doesn't sound mania-driven to me, although it does sound oddly familiar. It's like we've heard it somewhere before from banks and hedge funds and the richest man on the planet. The fact that Bitcoin has been able to sway one of its biggest critics is just another example of how it's being seen as more than just a get-rich-quick scheme. These guys are in it for the long haul, for 5, 10, even 20 years, and that says a hell of a lot about how Bitcoin's future looks. That just about wraps up this week's edition of the FullyCrypto podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your chosen platform and have your alert switch set to the on position so you can be informed the moment our next sarcasm/knowledge bomb drops. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you all again next week. Badoing.